Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar hosted by UReason. I'm Jos Uttens. I'm presenting to you today. I have a background in AI, starting in the 90s, and I've been involved many times in the past 25 years in prognostic and predictive programs that ensure asset integrity for critical assets and critical processes. Here are my contact details. If you have any questions after the webinar, don't hesitate to contact me or email me. I work at UReason. UReason is a software company that provides software for real-time condition-based and predictive maintenance. And I help our customers daily analyzing process and asset upsets and helping them to turn this into value in our software. At UReason, we combine our domain expertise and software knowledge with our customers and help them from data to solutions. We have offices in Rotterdam, which we see here in the picture in the top right, and in Reading in the UK. Our customers are predominantly manufacturing and process industry related customers, and they are located predominantly in Western Europe and North America. UReason is active in the field of real-time condition, predictive and prescriptive maintenance. Our field of operation is from helping customers to insights into data, to helping asset owners, OEMs, and maintenance and repair organizations with data-driven maintenance solutions. Our software, APM Studio, is used at different levels in the automation pyramid. Embedded with OEMs. It monitors faults and risks in isolation to the asset, and an asset can be instrumentation, an actuator, or a pump, or a compressor, a filter, etc. We also work at level 2 and 3 in the automation pyramid, where APM Studio is used to monitor faults in relationship to the process. When deployed at level 4 in the automation pyramid, APM Studio is used for optimizing the maintenance cost and planning associated to an asset base supporting a process. In today's webinar, we're going to build some dashboards that show asset sensor data, and good visualization of asset data is of great importance as the human in the loop makes decisions based on the information that is presented. Ansley captured this very well in his model for situational awareness that we see here. The better you guide the user with the proper information, the better the decisions become. Towards the end of the webinar, like Saika already indicated, there is time for questions and answers, but you can also use chat to post your questions at any point in time. So, as more and more data becomes available and is easily integrated into our work processes, the science of what you present to your user is becoming more and more important. We're entering an era where there's more data available than ever, and there's an increasing span of control governed by less people. There are some standards developed that help you guide you in choosing the right user interface and interaction design, such as the effective console operator HMI design, which was developed by the Abnormal Situation Management Consortium, and the ISA 101 standard that helps you with the life cycle and activities that are involved in developing good, effective user interfaces. So we will have a look at how you can easily set up dashboards in APM within minutes that provide valuable insights. APM Studio has a number of powerful widgets that allow you to quickly visualize data and create interactive dashboards for your users, conforming to modern UI standards. I will now switch to the live demonstration on the same screen. And please note that in the handouts, I have captured most of the steps and the various screenshots that I will also be showing in the demonstration. So I'm going to start with explaining what we're connected to. So here in the office where I'm currently at, I have a IOLink master from Balluff, and this master has been set up on 3 different ports and is connecting to different IOLink devices. These ports provide me with streaming data, in this case of a CBM sensor from Balluff, and this streaming data provides me with velocity, the root mean square in 3 different directions, contact temperature, and a lot of other data. Inside APM Studio, and I've now switched to APM Studio, I have set up class model. The class model is like a template model that represents templates, blueprints for the things we want to connect to in the outside world. So I see an IOLink master, REST API gateway, and two different types of sensors. Actually, it's one type of sensor, but two different types of configuration. In my office, and here's a picture I took from the setup that we're using. In my office, I have this master, IOLink master, and I have two sensors, DCM sensors that measure velocity, acceleration, connected to this master. So this is the real situation, the object model that is representing the reality that has been set up for this real situation. We see here on the right, it looks like a set of pictures, but I can actually, for example, double click on it and see that there is actually data coming in to my object model here inside APM Studio. So the templates are used for defining the properties, but also defining the behavior of this specific element. I can also look at what this specific sensor is, what its capabilities are, so what the measuring range is, etc., etc. And you can include all types of different types of information, documentation information in these types of overviews. And this sensor is currently located here in Rotterdam. I'm providing the presentation from the office, so we can also see the location information on this sensor and also on the other sensor, which is also receiving data. Has the same set of descriptions and is in the same location. Now, in addition to the sensors, which of course provide data, we have an IOLink master, and we have an object called an API gateway, a REST API gateway. So in this demonstration, I will actually be using this REST API gateway to collect data from the IOLink master from the sensors that are connected to it, which we see here on the desk on the left-hand side in the picture. So I've set up a number of processing rules that actually go out and fetch the appropriate data using the REST protocol that has been defined by the IOLink group, standardization group. So here we see, for example, a processing rule that will actually get the identification and the capabilities of the REST gateway I'm connecting to. And here, for example, we see a rule that is constantly getting the data from the actual sensors out there on my desk. Now, the focus of this session is to show you how easy it is to build dashboards inside APM Studio. So the dashboard to build today in this demonstrator is this one that we see right here, where we have the velocity sensor, data coming from the velocity sensor, showing the health status of the velocity sensor, a time series chart, and an embedded view that represents alarms, current alarms of the sensors that are connected to APM Studio. So let's start from scratch. So APM Studio is a low-code environment. So a lot of the elements inside APM Studio are accessible via palettes. So this is the palette that we get by default when we're going to build a dashboard. So let's start with creating an asset card. An asset card is a comprehensive view of different elements of assets or of a process. That really depends on how you set up the object model. And it's by drag and drop that I can just create a dashboard and then configure it to show certain elements of the objects that I want to connect to. So first I'm going to select the sensor I want to connect to. And then I'm going to instruct the system what different properties to visualize. So I want the contact temperature at the bottom. I want these properties in these positions, and the health status I don't want to see. And let's edit this to make it a little bit less precise, because otherwise we get a lot of numbers behind the comma, behind the dot, and give it a title. So what I'm doing here, I'm setting up the way in which the asset card is going to present the information to us, the users. And as you can see, everything is guided by menus. You don't have to do any coding. These are all built-in views. And it's quite easy to set up an asset card. And let's click OK, and let's have a look how this asset card looks like when we make it live. So I've switched to the live definition. So here's my asset card, the one I just created. But now it's reacting on the data as and when the data comes in. We can see the data changing. We can see the health status changing as well. We'll focus on that a little bit more later on. And as you can see, velocity X, Y, and Z, and the temperature without a capital T are being shown, including the last update time. That's one of the options you can choose in an asset card. So that was relatively easy. And as you can see, this dashboard, the thing we're currently looking at, is running inside a web browser. So the dashboards that you're creating, depending on where APM Studio is deployed, can also be deployed within your intranet to users in the field or to users in maintenance departments. But they can also be deployed to tablets, mobile phones, etc., because it's just a set of web services that is used for visualizing the data. Now let's extend this dashboard a little bit and let's create a time series chart. So the time series chart is nice for visualizing data over time that is arriving at my sensors. So again, here the time series chart has a set of guided dialogues that allow you to configure the user interface and the look and feel, but also the behavior. So let's create a few data points. And let's assign this one to X. Let's create another one for velocity Y. Select the data source, the data point. Let's also provide some maximum number of data points here because I don't want my graph to look back at all the history that is collected inside APM Studio, but only to the last 50 data points. And let's do the same for the velocity in the Z direction, also with a maximum number of data points. And let's have a look by making it live, what that looks like. Well, there we go. We have data flowing in, feeding in. It looks quite spiky because I didn't configure the chart to use smoothed lines. So let's beautify this a little bit by going to the series style and editing the way in which the velocity is actually represented. So there's multiple choices here, as a line, which is the default, or as a smoothed line, a column, step, or a cone graph. And let's give it a little bit of extra stroke there, so the line becomes a little bit thicker. Let's do the same for the other points here as well. And there we are. I think I've done all of them. And let's add a legend to the graph as well. Okay, now let me change the behavior, the look and feel of the behavior a little bit by making it look equal to the look and feel of the asset tile that we created earlier. So I've modified my time series chart. Now let's have a look to see what that does. So here it is, the time series chart configured with a few mouse clicks. I put the legend at the bottom. I thought I put it at the top, but I must have selected the wrong option. And we can see the data coming in, and I'm going to make some tapping here on my desk. You probably can hear this through the microphone as well, just to show that, especially in the Z direction, that's because the sensors are laid down, especially in the Z direction, the sensors are now measuring the fact that I'm, well, making vibrations on the table in this case. Normally, it's, of course, it's connected to a pump or a sieve or a compressor, etc. Normally, it's not on the desk like in this demonstration. Let me push the desk, and I hope that the connection stays alive. So I'm pushing the desk now. That should cause all sensors to move off in a specific direction. But we can also see that here, while I was pushing this off, there was here in this spot in the asset tile, there were alarms arriving. See, there's alarms arriving as long as I keep pushing the desk in this case. So what are those alarms? I have defined a few predefined alarms in this demonstrator that are looking at the behavior of the RMS, the root mean square of this vibration sensor. And these alarms are visualized here in the asset tile. It's one of the options that comes by default in the asset tile. By default, the asset tiles provide health status information. That's the circle showing green or a different color representing the current health of the asset. And there's also a thing called the Moore status configuration. So Moore is a standard that has been adopted quite widely in chemical industry, but also outside. And Moore has defined a fixed number of colors and iconic representations for informing operational personnel about the status of equipment, informing if it's okay, informing if it requires maintenance, informing if it's outside of specification, informing if it's experiencing a failure, etc. So there's a certain set of predefined Moore status items that are by default represented also in the asset card. So let me add another element, a definition view, to this UI. Make it a little bit bigger because I want to show an alarm display in this view. Make it a little bit bigger here, fit the screen. I'll select the inspector. I'm selecting here what type of display, so what type of element I would like to be displayed in this specific view. So as I would like to see what alarms are occurring, I'm choosing the alarm browser definition. And there's one alarm browser definition set up for velocity exceptions. An alarm browser definition is a view that is listening for events and alarms that are occurring of a specific class or are occurring of a specific class related to a certain set of sources. Actually, I think this is okay. Let me make this elevated as well. And let's give it a white transparent background as well. And let's have a look what that does to my user interface. So I can now see an alarm browser here at the bottom, which shows me what current alarms are active on my office setup. It's an office setup. It's not connected to rotating equipment at the moment. And as I start tapping again, sorry for the noise in the background, as I start tapping again, we can see alarms arriving and alarms being cleared as well. But we can also see the health status updating there. You see when I start tapping, it goes to deviating state. If I really start tapping, it goes to critical state. So I've set a number of KPIs, a number of key performance indicators inside APM Studio that provide me an indication of the health status based on a predefined set of values. So normally it would be on the basis of the frequency spectrum that identifies bearing failures or misalignment, etc. But because here the setup that we're using is one that is on my desk, that's why I was tapping obviously. Yeah, I don't have those frequencies, so I set up some KPIs here inside APM Studio that are looking at the root mean square of any of the sensors, any of the types of sensors that are connected here. And basically on a set of simple thresholds, it's indicating if it's okay, if it's in a warning or in a critical situation. And as and when that happens, the overall KPI is being calculated as well. So we have an overall KPI calculation here with some code that indicates the different types of statuses that my device can actually encounter. It could be okay, oscillating, deviating, or critical. So these KPI parameters are calculated continuously, automatically. They're generically defined, so it doesn't matter how many sensors I have connected. It doesn't matter if you have 1 or 100 pumps. It would calculate these across the entire asset base that APM Studio is connecting to. And as we're connecting here in this example to just 2 BCM sensors, it will calculate those across both of the sensors and provide the feedback in these asset tiles. So let us go back again to the dashboard. And let's copy and paste this asset tile. Put it here. Well, my graph is not going to be very informative, but for the demo, it's okay. Connect this guy to the other sensor. Just verify that we still have the same set of properties to display. It does. Make this guy a little bit bigger to fill the screen. Make the graph a little bit bigger, otherwise everything is squashed. And let's have a look. There we go. We see different readings for the different sensors, also different temperature. And we see the graph here on the right-hand side. It's a little bit squashed, but as you can see, it's now individually calculating the KPIs for the different sensors and providing feedback to you as well. All of this is in a web environment. I think I said this before, but all of this is in a web environment and quite performant as well. Quite performant in the sense that it can handle many different types of assets, a lot of I/O, and update these views in real time quite easily. So I have to keep track of the time because the demo and the presentation should be maximum half an hour. So I think I've done okay. Let me just have a look at the chat messages that I received from the supporting group. Okay, we're good to go. So let me switch back to the presentation and put that on the screen again. Just need to play a little bit. Okay, so that was a very brief demo, but I hope you appreciated the fact that within a few minutes you can generate quite a meaningful dashboard within APM Studio that informs maintenance personnel, operational personnel about the status of your assets, the status of your processes. For the UI development, we need to take into account that we are designing interfaces for the new generation, where in the past we could try to find space for every measured value on our SCADA or DCS screens. Nowadays, we have to pay a lot more attention to the way in which we present information, such that the decision-making process is guided as well as possible. And with the digital natives, the people that grew up with tablets, mobile phones, etc., we're also entering and dealing with another type of data consumer. And sometimes people say that they have a shorter attention span and they consume data where the data presented is a given, i.e., the data presents the truth. So we need to do our utmost best to present as good a picture of the state of assets and processes. The demo showed that we can easily set up interactive dashboards linked to streaming data sources. I hope this short webinar was valuable to you. With APM Studio, you can set up monitoring of assets easily in a relatively short time frame. In a similar graphical low-code fashion, you can also set up real-time condition monitoring and predictive maintenance solutions, informing and actively assisting your field personnel. So we've come to the end of the presentation part of the webinar, and it's now time for questions and answers. Stay connected, as there is a small surprise to all the attendees at the end. Again, for now, I'd like to thank you in participating in this webinar. And please take time to fill in the evaluation form. Your feedback is appreciated. And as we approach the festive season, all evaluation forms that are filled in will be rewarded with a chocolate letter from St. Nicholas, the guy who we see here in the picture. Okay, let me turn to my colleagues, Carlos and Saika, who are moderating the webinar, and ask if they received any one-on-one questions that I can take and I can answer for you. Okay, there is some, I'm processing the text on my screen. Sorry for the small pause there. Okay, the first question I have here on the screen is the example show the connection to sensors using the REST protocol. Can APM Studio also connect to IoT platforms to collect data for streaming analysis, such as real-time condition monitoring? Yes, it can. Let me quickly go to that part. So part of this was actually showing that I'm using REST endpoints to connect to data sources. So again, here I've switched this rule off, so I'm not collecting any data anymore now. Inside the APM Studio, there's a palette of predefined objects that provide capabilities, a lot of capabilities. And these, again, like we saw also with the UI elements, are set up with wizards that guide you through the setup process. So for example, here we see the endpoint configuration, the REST endpoint configuration for getting the values from the DCM sensors using JSON-for-IOLink. So it does a get on a certain host with a certain port and a certain path. There's header and query parameters defined, and then there is a response script that actually takes the response body. So what we get back from the Balluff device is a string like this, packaged as a JSON string. And what we do is we take that response buffer and we, in this case, because of the protocol, we convert it to a buffer of bytes, and that buffer of bytes is then translated into the actual values. So the bytes represent the actual values. Now, in a similar fashion as this has been set up, you can also connect to, for example, PTC ThingsWorks or Azure IoT Hub in the same fashion. Anything that has a REST API you can connect to, also to Maximo, Ultimo, and other CMMS systems in a graphical way with low coding. The low coding here is required to specify how APM Studio should actually transact the data that it receives. Let's see, a second question is, let's see, creating a dashboard seems very easy. Can you also create a dashboard for different types of users that get different information presenting to them depending on the level of the user? Yes, let me switch this one on again and let's go to the dashboards. So here's the dashboard I built. Now, let's say you would like to restrict the usage of a specific view. Then there are multiple ways in doing so. So APM Studio has different types of users defined. And for different types of definitions, you can define what users are allowed to view those specific elements. And here, if I would log out and log in, I'm not going to do that, but if I log out, I can log in with a different type of user, for example, with an end user type, and I would only be provided with the end user type information in that case. So all the elements have end user configurations where you can define who is allowed to see certain. The third question, is it possible to set up more extensive dashboards with navigation? Yes, it is. I did a very quick demo of setting up a dashboard with visual elements, but you can also define status bars. Let me do one on the fly here. Let's make this one my bar. Let's activate it, and here I'm assigning what users can actually see it. So it's for the end user and the support engineer. Well, let's make it for everyone. There's 4 users defined in my system, and then I can define what the elements are of my bar. So let me add alarms, for example, capital A. Let's see, it's an alarm status. It uses the IOLink icon, and there we are. And you can see it appearing here. Well, the icon is not very appropriate here for this one, but that's okay. Bar, another one. Also provide what type of linkages is. So for example, alarms, providing the alarm status should go to an alarm browser definition, and there's one defined here, so to this alarm browser definition, or it should go to the model diagram, which is the office setup. And let's close this guy. And these elements, as you define them, become live, and they become live for the users that they've been defined for. So I just clicked on alarms and I configured it to go to my office setup. Full bar, I haven't done anything yet, so I can also define what should happen when I select full bar. So this is, it's quite easy, relatively easy. Full bar should go to, well, let's say a dashboard diagram and to the dashboards that we created. And you can also specify which users, again, are allowed to do this. I'm skipping this step, just to be quick. There we go. And we go back to full bar, which wasn't installed. Let me install it. There you go. It's live. Alarms, full bar. So you can set up quite easily different types of interactions like this. Okay, there's a question. Can you set up differential calculations? Yes, you can. So if you would like to calculate an integral of the RMS, or would like to do other calculations, there's multiple ways of doing this. There's a capability through script, but you can also provide calculations through model imports. There's also the capability in processing rules. There's a few processing rules here, but let me just show you. There's also capabilities to do pure data flow tasks, and these allow you to run PMML models, fuzzy models, scripts, PID controllers, depending on what functions are currently loaded inside APM Studio. Let's see, there's a next question. Is it possible to use other communications than IOLink? Yeah, so here I showed an example that used a REST interface to access IOLink devices. In addition to a REST protocol, we support MQTT, OPC, UADA, and we support specific interfaces to, for example, Natillion. So that's a vendor cloud. And we also have OI4 compliant interfaces available to connect APM, or for example, to run APM on edge devices close to your sensors and close to your machinery. I hope that answers the question. And there's a next question. I also need to keep track of the time. How do you determine what to do when an alarm is triggered, apart from go and have a look, something might be wrong? Yeah, so what I showed in the dashboards were alarms that were quite simple. They are, yeah, based on the threshold, they're doing something, and they're informing you that something is off, something is on. So inside APM Studio, you also have the ability to set up bowtie rules. Bowtie rules are a special type of rule that allow you to monitor certain events that you want to prevent, this yellow ball here, and list all the different causes that can lead to this event and the different controls, some people call them tests, that will lead to the existence of the unwanted event. So inside APM Studio, you can set up bowties that allow you to do cause consequence modeling. So the cause side, but you can also do the consequence side on the other end, where you can define the barriers. So those are the conditions that you expect users or systems to take to prevent further consequences from happening. Inside these control elements, you can define live tests on your data as and when it's flowing in. And the bowtie provides you with a cause consequence model and a suggestion to the user of what the causes are of a specific event. And then in addition to providing what the causes are of a different event, You can also use what we call decision support schemes inside APM Studio. And these decision support schemes are tailored towards guiding a user in resolving a certain situation that they are dealing with. So the guidance, let's say a certain issue has been detected, which is a nearing bearing failure, then you can formalize the SOP, the standard operating procedure that you want your users to follow. Do X. I'm just doing one example quickly here. And do Y to show you how easy it is to set this up. So let's see how this looks live. Oh, can't be activated because I haven't finished everything. So if we turn this live, then what will happen is that the user gets a guidance, and that guidance can also be linked into alarms to resolve a certain situation. So you can link these directly to the alarms on your dashboard, or you can also link them to the asset tiles as well. So let me create a card configuration here, which is of a type decision support. Let's not use an icon. Let's take this one. I should have selected my decision support rule. There we go. And in this case, the object on which it is valid. And now I get this additional icon here at the bottom, which helps me in guiding a certain issue. So you can make this conditional. It will only appear when the user needs to take actions on the condition that has been detected. Let's see, there's another question there. Can you create an app for Android or Apple devices with APM Studio? Well, yes, this is possible. So all the entire demo that you've seen is not running any desktop software. It's connecting, it's showing web pages from the APM Studio server. And if you have Android Studio for Android devices, for example, you can quickly create an app which accesses these web services, or you can use apps like Go Native to build Android and Apple apps with the dashboards that we see here. This, of course, is a simple dashboard, so it would be an app with just one faceplate with the graph and the alarm browser, but you can also include this type of navigation in there as well, of course, to make it more interactive or to add more interactions. And keeping track of the questions, let's see, what are the state models that I saw on the UI of APM Studio? Yeah, so there is, I haven't done that in this demo because, well, it's not really associated to building a dashboard, but inside APM Studio, you can create state rules. I didn't name it, was a bit lazy there. And state rules allow you, again, there's a palette, allow you to capture different behavioral states of your assets. So if you have a compressor, for example, the compressor is in an off state, and based on certain conditions that we can get from the data, it can go to on and on loads and offloads. And then based on another transition, it may go to I can use the inspector, and I don't double click it on and unload. You can define the transitions here, how it can go from one to the next transition. There's two transitions here on top of each other. Below these transitions, you can define how the transitions actually take place, so what the conditions are for the transitions taking place. And like with all the other elements inside the APM Studio, when this goes live, the state model starts determining for the type of asset, for pump, a compressor, or for a process, how it can transition from one to another state and what state it is currently in. So that's quite useful if you want to do, let's say, condition monitoring on a pump. You don't want to use the readings from vibration sensors, for example, the BCM sensors that I have connected here all the time, but you only want to refer to those as and when the pump is in a normal operating regime. And another question. My question is not related to the content of the demo, but something I noticed are the bow ties that are shown in UI risk barrier models. Yes. So bow ties, which I quickly showed, are typically used as in a paper between quotes type exercise to determine what barriers there are and what mitigating measures you need to prevent certain unwanted events and to prevent further consequences. And bow ties inside APM Studio, when they go live, this one is not completed, but they continuously start monitoring this unwanted calls, which I did not fully specify, hence the errors. And I have not provided any tests here, but it will continuously monitor if a certain unwanted event is about to happen, what the likelihood of it is that it will happen. And as and when it happens, it will also start monitoring the barriers for further consequences. Let me see if there's any other questions. Carlos, this is one of my colleagues doing the moderation. I think we've gone through all the questions. I think we have. There's no more questions. Thank you, Carlos. Well, I would like to thank you again for joining in this webinar. And let me highlight to you again that don't forget to fill in the evaluation form. And everyone that fills in the evaluation form will be rewarded with a chocolate letter. And as it's COVID time, you can leave your personal address on the evaluation form. We will do nothing with the personal address other than send you one of these nice chocolate letters. Again, thank you for joining this webinar, and I hope to see you soon again on other webinars that we host. Take care.